I've got a fascinating story for you today. It's about just how quickly an investment strategy can evolve. We're going to look at how a portfolio that was considered perfectly fine one day got a complete overhaul just 48 hours later. It's a really powerful lesson in why the system you use for making decisions can be way more important than the specific things you happen to own right now.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the original blueprint, this AI-heavy portfolio. Then, we'll get to the system upgrade that just turned everything on its head. That leads us right into the core philosophy of the new system, which is all about spotting dying versus winning trends. From there, we'll dig into the two big trades the system forced, and then finally, we'll crunch the numbers and see what the real impact of this whole shift looks like.
All right, let's set the stage. We're rewinding the clock to January 9th, 2026. What you're about to see is a deep analysis of a portfolio on that specific day. Think of it like a photograph, a perfect snapshot in time. So this is our starting point, a portfolio valued at just over £92,000. And you know, this wasn't just some random mix of stocks. Nope, this was built with a very clear, high-conviction strategy that was aimed squarely at the future.
And you can see that strategy right here. This portfolio had a seriously aggressive tilt. I mean, look at that. Almost two-thirds of the money was making a big bet on high-growth AI and tech stocks. The rest was anchored in some solid dividend payers. It was a deliberate, sophisticated, and very forward-looking plan.
So, after pages and pages of deep analysis, we're talking risk modeling, scenario planning, the whole shebang. The official recommendation came back and it was crystal clear. Maintain the current allocation. The strategy was judged to be fundamentally sound for the long haul. End of story, right? Well, not even close.
Because just 2 days later, that sound verdict was pretty much thrown out the window. A brand new document showed up that completely rewired the entire investment philosophy. Let's see how this dramatic shift actually happened.
On January 11th, this new document lands, the MJ Investment Constitution V2.5. Now this was a total game changer. Why? Because it shifted the focus from what the portfolio owned to how decisions were made. It's the difference between having a static photo and having a living, breathing rulebook.
And right at the heart of this new rulebook was his core philosophy, dynamic rebalancing. The idea is to stop thinking of your portfolio as a fixed thing and start treating it like an adaptive system. A system designed to systematically, and this is key, move money away from dying trends and into emerging ones, all based on cold, hard evidence.
And as you can see from this timeline, version 2.5 wasn't just some minor tweak. Oh no, it was the peak of a whole series of upgrades. This version was the one that added the teeth, a powerful rules-based engine for making these strategic changes. It basically gave the investor a formal process to, well, kill their darlings when the data said their time was up.
So, what does this new system actually do? Well, it forces you to take an honest, data-driven look at the world. It makes you confront how the market is evolving head-on, no matter what your old beliefs or personal feelings were.
And this just illustrates the logic perfectly. The system uses hard evidence, things like peak oil forecasts, ESG divestment data, and how much the big tech companies are spending, to sort trends into two buckets. On the left, you've got the dying trends. On the right, the emerging ones. The mission is simple: systematically move your capital from the left column over to the right.
So with this new framework in place, the system immediately flagged two positions in the portfolio for removal. And just remember, only 2 days earlier, these were considered part of a sound strategy. Now, under the new rules, they were identified as dead weight.
The first switch is a classic example of this new way of thinking. It targets a legacy energy company, arguing that the money is much better off being used to build the actual physical infrastructure for the AI revolution.
The system put Canadian natural resources on the chopping block. And the argument is pretty clear. The long-term reason for owning it is broken. With forecasts showing peak oil demand on the horizon, and with AI data centers looking to nuclear and renewables for power, holding on to oil sands assets is just swimming against a very powerful tide.
So that capital was immediately reallocated. It went straight into Applied Digital, a company that is smack in the middle of one of the biggest emerging trends the system had identified.
The new thesis here is that AI data centers are the critical bottleneck of our time. And Applied Digital isn't just some speculative bet. We're talking billions of dollars in secured long-term contracts from the biggest tech companies in the world. That's real, tangible evidence that it's in a key position.
So what's the impact of this one single rules-based switch? It's pretty significant. Based on the system's own projections, making this move from a dying trend to an emerging one is expected to add over £4,000 in value to the portfolio over the next decade.
But the system wasn't done. Next up, it targeted a high-yield dividend stock in another industry that the rules flagged as being in structural decline. Good old tobacco.
The system called out Imperial Brands as a classic value trap. Yeah, the high dividend looks nice, but it's hiding a business that's facing a perfect storm of rising taxes, new regulations, and huge funds pulling their money out. It's a melting ice cube, plain and simple. And that capital was immediately moved into one of the fastest growing and, frankly, most critical areas of the new economy: cybersecurity.
The new thesis here is simple but powerful. As AI creates new threats, you're going to need AI-powered defense to fight back. It's becoming a mandatory, non-negotiable expense for every major company out there. And with ransomware costs just soaring, a market leader like CrowdStrike is in a perfect position for long-term growth.
And this second switch is projected to be even more impactful. We're looking at an additional £6,650 in value over 10 years just by getting out of the declining tobacco stock.
Okay, let's put it all together. What's the total calculated impact of these two moves? Moves that were driven entirely by this new systematic process.
This is the bottom line. The two trades, executed not on a whim, but because the rules of Constitution V2.6 demanded it, are projected to add over £10,000 to the portfolio's value over the long run. That is the power of moving from a static plan to an adaptive, living system.
This entire 48-hour transformation brings up a really crucial question for anyone thinking long-term, doesn't it? It challenges us to think less about having the perfect snapshot today and more about building a tough, durable process for whatever reality tomorrow brings.
Ultimately, the new Constitution really boils its whole philosophy down to this simple, powerful idea. It's a final thought on just how critical adaptability is, on having a system that's designed not just to hold on to things, but to evolve right along with the world.